You know the world is turning into a funny place when a puppet on the internet is a beacon for logic and reason. And no, I'm not talking about the music softwares Logic and Reason, although I am pretty nice with those too. I'm talking about logical thinking and reasonable accountability. This is actually my first ever reaction video, and I'm going to be watching a video from Kato The Producer, who got to interview the new head of marketing and policy at Spotify for Artists to ask the tough questions. So to give you a little backstory on how this clip relates to me is in 2021, I was producing Karra's debut album called Beauty and the Boss. It was an 11-track original album where me and a couple of other co-producers and co-writers got together and we wrote everything from scratch and put together a nice project for Karra to release as her own debut solo artist album. The album originally released in March 2024, and unfortunately it only had a lifespan of about a year and a few months. You see, in 2025, we got this email that one of the songs on the album received a large spike in streams. And at first we thought this was good news because yay, our song is maybe finally popping off, getting some traction, or maybe it got added to a popular playlist. Who knows? All that stuff as an artist is somewhat out of your control. The next day we received an email that kind of explained what actually happened. And the email said,
Spotify has flagged artificial streaming on your tracks. Because of that, your releases containing these tracks were removed from their platform. This doesn't mean you did anything wrong. These things can happen on Spotify without your knowledge. Thank you.
All 11 songs gone. Why, you ask? Well, they ended up on a Spotify playlist where bot streams were running up the numbers for the playlist. You see, sometimes there's goofballs on the internet who want to seem more important than they actually are. And in this context, they create a playlist and buy a bunch of fake streams for the songs on their playlist to make it seem like it has some sort of pull or popularity in the industry. Naturally, that's a red flag behavior as far as Spotify is concerned. I'm sure it's not too hard for them to detect whether it's real humans or artificial bots just constantly refreshing and streaming a song. So what do they do when this situation occurs? Well, instead of punishing the playlist who is committing the fraud, they punish the artists who got targeted by the fraudster. That's right. Instead of deleting the dork who's trying to pretend to be important, they delete the random artists who ended up on their victim list. Or playlist. And yes, side note, if there's any song that you ever want deleted from Spotify, apparently you could just put it on a playlist and buy bots for the playlist and poof, it's gone. Unless it's on a major label. But shh, we're not supposed to talk about that. So, after being extremely disappointed, we said, you know what? Let's tell this story. So we took all the receipts, all the footage, all the story of her creating the album, pouring her heart and soul into it, hiring the best mixing engineer you could possibly hire, hiring the best mastering engineer money could buy, doing contracts with professional photographers who captured really amazing photos, or the video crew who helped capture all of the vertical Spotify canvases that were supposed to be the cover arts for the album. You know, instead of a static picture, you can put a little video up. Well, those didn't appear, but that's a whole different story. So let's get into the Kato clip. So Kato was very brave to ask this Spotify guy the hard-hitting questions. When you have figurehead from a very powerful company and there's a lot of controversy surrounding the company and you step up and you ask a hard-hitting question, that takes bravery, and I commend Kato for that. I'm actually a big fan of Kato, and if he's not a big fan of me after this, I totally understand, but I'll still be a fan of him. I encourage you to go check out his content and follow him because it is really high quality from a real industry professional. So that's the backstory. That's the hot issue topic that Kato is bringing up with this new Spotify figurehead. Of course, they got rid of the Dr. Evil guy with the murder drones because he wasn't a good look for the company, and they put this significantly less threatening figure in there. But anyways, let's break down the question, and then let's break down the answer. So let's let it play.
A lot of independent artists had told me that their music or their album got removed due to artificial streaming when they didn't, or they claimed they didn't use artificial streaming. What would you want to say directly to those artists?
So that's a great, straightforward question. A lot of artists received punishments that they didn't deserve. What would you like to say to those artists you are wrongfully punishing? The question describes the issue at hand, and it describes the magnitude of the issue at hand by beginning the sentence with a lot. Now, remember that phrase, a lot, because it's going to be relevant in just a few seconds. Great question.
Yeah, whenever I read cases about that, it's heartbreaking and not what you want to see.
Let's stop right there. When I read cases about that, this already ignores the fact that the question is spawned from a documentary. It's either he hasn't seen the documentary or he's pretending he hasn't seen the documentary. Reading leaves a lot to the imagination, whereas a video documentary has receipts, chronology, proof, and everything that you need in between to fully explain a story. This head of marketing and policy only reads about the company that he represents. Do not type it into YouTube. Whatever you do, don't type it into YouTube. Just read about it.
People who like pour themselves into their music, into their art, and then in those rare cases where you truly did nothing wrong.
Rare cases. He describes the cases as rare. Now, if they were rare, there wouldn't be like a 1 in 10 ratio of people in the comments of Karra's documentary saying, this happened to me too. If it was rare, it would be relatively difficult to find people saying, me too. But if you'd like to go check the receipts for yourself, scroll through the comments of Karra's documentary and see how rare it actually is. But let's let him talk.
You got, caught on a user playlist that was botted and a distributor takes your music down. Like,
a distributor takes your music down, not Spotify instructing the distributor to take the music down. It's very important to his PR team and his lawyer that he says a distributor takes it down, because if Spotify took it down, that would reflect poorly on Spotify. But we need to deflect. We need to confuse. We need to introduce other characters into this story to make sure that the issue is not entirely on them. You see, if you were a PR-trained professional with a team of lawyers and people helping you avoid answering hard questions, you probably would change some adjectives you don't like, marginalize the complaints, or maybe even ramble on and hope people forgot the question altogether. But sorry, let's let him talk.
That's really frustrating. I totally understand where that's coming from.
That's really frustrating. I totally understand where that's coming from. He acknowledges that it's a real thing, and he understands why it would be frustrating to be punished for something you didn't do.
No system's going to be perfect. Over the last few years,
no system's going to be perfect when there's no cybersecurity at all. No system's going to be perfect when you have a system where anyone can just delete anything off of anyone's profile by buying fake streams for it. There is no perfect system to be had when anyone can just upload anything to anyone's profile without their permission. That's the world we live in now. Does someone want to release a song with hateful messages? God forbid, some malicious, religious, or even racial slurs or something that gets you canceled? They could post it right on your page with your name, probably with a voice filter that could even sound like you and convince a few people to irreversibly hate you. That wouldn't be good, would it? But today we're not talking about fraudulent uploads. We're talking about fraudulent deletions. So let's stay on topic.
There's really good reason why we and other streaming services and distributors have invested a ton in fighting artificial streaming.
Again, we and other streaming services. In communication, we refer to this tactic as muddying the waters, making it harder to concisely pay attention to your target. You are now fogging up the answer with other distributors, other streaming services. This isn't a Spotify problem. This is an all streaming services problem. That's what you would say if you were answering on behalf of Spotify, or I should say, avoiding the answer on behalf of Spotify.
As you know, there's a fixed royalty pool in music, roughly two thirds of music revenue that comes into.
So now we're going to pretend that this is a revenue-related issue. Like we're upset that we're missing out on the pennies that we would have gotten paid if our album got kept up. That's not the issue. We are upset that history is being deleted. We are upset that legacy is being deleted. We are upset that hard work that has no business being deleted is being deleted. The complications that all this stuff creates within the royalty system, I'd say that's small potatoes, but he wants to talk about small potatoes instead. So let's continue.
A streaming service goes back to rights holders. If there's any botted streams, artificial streams that aren't detected, aren't caught by the streaming service, that's money that could otherwise go to an artist who really deserves it. I think you.
Yes, that's great. If the question was, how do you punish people committing fraud? This would be a perfect answer. But the question was, how do you make it right for people that you punished who didn't commit fraud? And what would you like to say to those artists, presumably to rectify the situation? That was the question. As we go, you'll find that his answer just kind of strays further and further from the question until hopefully you forget altogether what the original question was.
You hear that a lot less now because we've put a ton of hard work into the engineering, the enforcement. Every time we catch an artificial stream, we're withholding royalties, so it doesn't factor into royalty calculations.
Every time we catch a bad guy, we're making sure that they don't get money. Okay, that's great, but what's the answer to the question that we asked? The problem is the deflection. The problem is intentional confusion of the answer. The problem is pretending like this is a royalty-related question when it's actually a honesty-related question.
It has no impact on chart position. We're removing that from track stream counts, from your monthly listener count.
This is all great stuff. If someone were to buy fake streams for their song, they should have their money withheld. They should have their chart positions withheld. But that's not the question. The question is, how do you make it right to people who got deleted from ending up on a scam playlist? Why are you punishing the creators and not the curators? Could it possibly be that Spotify likes curators more than they like creators? Could it be that having too many artists on an app makes the user experience bad, whereas having playlists that do the digging and dirty work for you make the experience good? Could that possibly be why they're choosing to punish the creator instead of the curator who committed fraud? Because right now he's talking about creators who commit fraud and have their royalties withheld. That's all well and good, but that's not the answer to this question. That's not even relevant to this question. The question was, how do you make it right to people who were punished for committing fraud who didn't commit fraud? But let's continue.
And we send the reporting to labels and distributors so that they can see from all streaming services where artificial streams are coming in from.
So they snitch to the distributors that fraud has taken place. They are telling the distributors to cut you off. It's not a Spotify problem. It's a distributor problem. Deflect.
We can kind of work with distributors to make sure that those artists aren't penalized, those artists aren't punished.
Kato's right on point with that answer. I'm thinking the same thing. How does this answer relate to that question?
The other thing we launched a few months ago is our playlist reporter form. Now you can tell us directly right within Spotify for Artists.
Oh, good. Now you, the user, get to be the police for Spotify. Because we don't do anything. Essentially saying, independent artists, you can go regulate yourselves.
You submit the playlist that you kind of got put on accidentally, that you now see is botted through the Spotify for Artists data. There's no penalty, no punishment for letting us know about it.
Okay, so there's no penalty or no punishment for doing your job for you, but that does not mean Spotify is going to help you or fix anything or even respond. I'm really starting to think that Spotify likes curators more than they like creators. It would really make sense because if you were an app that had so much content on it that it was hard to pick what to watch and made you not like the app as much, you probably would really appreciate the people who step up as curators. I would imagine curators make the Spotify experience a lot better than any individual creators do. And there's a very big difference between a curator and a creator.
With any system, we want to be as aggressive as possible to make sure we're catching all these artificial streams to protect the royalty pool for hardworking artists who deserve it.
Yeah.
We want to be as aggressive as possible, so we just punish everybody. No questions asked, no forgiveness given. You're out of here.
Going to be some cases where we get things wrong and we've tried to just react quickly. And
we're still waiting for the reaction on our album. We're still waiting for any sort of anything, actually.
Fix systems as fast as we can.
What system are you even going to fix? There is no cybersecurity by design. It's a broken system by design. Anyone can freely do anything with any independent artist's profile by design. Now, if you were a major label, wouldn't it be convenient if independent artistry as a whole had this general dumpster fire flavor to it? And now I'm straying away from the question. The question is what happens when people get their stuff deleted? Honestly, that's like the tip of the iceberg when it comes to their system being broken. How is it even legally okay for such a giant tech conglomerate to operate with absolutely zero cybersecurity protecting individuals' profiles from malicious individuals? This could be solved with a personal PIN code. This could be solved with two-factor authentication. This could be solved with the most basic level of cybersecurity. I have to go through higher levels of cybersecurity to order my cat's cat litter off an app. I have to confirm I'm me with a second device. Allow me to repeat that for you. I have to go through more steps of cybersecurity to create an account on Chewy.com to order gravel for my cats to on than I have to go through to put an entire fake release up on Kato's profile, or to delete a real song off of Kato's profile. It's easier to do that than it is to hack my cat litter account. It is built like this by design. This problem is not new, and AI is a convenient deflection. Artists get nothing. Or I should say, independent artists get nothing. If you're affiliated with a major label, none of these problems apply to you. You have people who know people. And when something funky happens with your page, it's their problem, not your problem. But when you're an independent artist, the opposite is true. When something funky happens with your page, it is your problem. So where do you go to solve that problem? Well, you attempt to contact customer support. And then when you contact customer support, they respond to you using bots. I thought bots were bad, you guys. Which one is it? Okay, and that's the end of the clip right there. We get back to the question. I have to hear him ask the question again, because by the time you get to the end of the clip, you almost start to wonder, wait, was there a question about this to begin with? What's this guy even talking about? So let's just refresh our memory what the question was again.
A lot of independent artists had told me that their music or their album got removed due to artificial streaming when they didn't, or they claimed they didn't use artificial streaming.
Again, excellent question. And he even hits it with the kicker.
What would you want to say directly to those artists?
What would you want to say directly to those artists? Well, there you have it, guys. That's what he wants to say directly to you. A bunch of PR fluff, deflection speak, lawyer sleight of hand, concoction answers, group teams meeting, boardroom answers. I hope that maybe this is some sort of video editing mistake. Maybe AI was used to edit this very clip and it kind of scrambled it into something that didn't make sense. I'm hoping that is the case, because this answer is just diabolically deflective and completely avoids the question altogether. But I can't be the only person thinking of this. Let's scroll down and see the community consensus. Is the answer in the room with us? Let's see. A bunch of people are saying pod. Oh, so if you want to see the whole thing, you have to go in the comments and say pod. I don't know. I'm not going to do that. Yeah. Did I miss the answer? This wasn't even a real answer. Dudes talking in circles. 3 of my songs were removed due to AI streams. This sounds like a politician answering a question. So why do I care so much? Because it's not just the album that I was involved in that I'm trying to stand up for. It's everybody's original works and albums that I would love to see stand the test of time. There's no reason for history to be deleted, and there's no reason for human work to be punished as if it's non-human. But when you zoom out and take a look at the situation, the repercussions of artists having their songs taken down go way deeper than just history being deleted. Because if you are an up-and-coming artist looking at this situation saying, okay, if I'm going to try really hard on my music, and it could possibly just be deleted irrevocably for reasons outside of my control, why should I join a premium membership community to access tips and tricks that'll advance my music career? Why should I invest in nicer speakers? Why should I purchase premium plugins? Why polish up your track with a mixing or mastering engineer when it might just be deleted a year later? Why even buy a DAW and make music in anything other than just a free voice notes app? Do you see how when the final destination becomes questionable, everything downstream of your initial dream of being a musical artist also becomes questionable? You're just risking enormous losses by putting it in a self-released system. Now let me back up and say, very few people I know have ever had issues with songs released by record labels. This exclusively seems to be an issue amongst the self-releasing systems like DistroKid, CD Baby, and all the TuneCore knockoffs that you could possibly name. This affects those artists. Again, not the major label artists who have a team that notice something's up right away and then contact Spotify and get it fixed right away. It's not their problem. It's the independent artists' problem. Does Spotify even like independent artists on their platform at all? Would they care if every independent artist got up and left all in the same day? Probably not. They probably wouldn't even notice. I mean, the major label artists probably keep their subscriber base high enough that they could care less. In fact, it's probably more of a burden hosting all of our stuff and trying to make sense of it all than it is just being a premium platform for major labels. That would be the accurate way to describe what Spotify actually is as a business. Because if you are an artist trying to exist on Spotify and you don't have that backing of a major label, your song could be just gone with the wind overnight. And of course, you better hope that that song is not from an album, because if it is, that whole album is coming down with it. Well, there you have it, guys. My first reaction, and I guess you could call it like a critique video. So hopefully one day we actually get an answer to this question. But until then, I appreciate you, Kato, for at least trying to push him on the topic. And if this answer truly was not like scrambled by some AI clip editing thing, yeah, they're definitely not making the situation better by trying to go on podcasts. And they're also definitely not making Spotify look like the premier podcasting platform by posting their podcast in its entirety on YouTube.com. I mean, even these two Spotify advocates didn't even upload their podcast to Spotify. I wonder why. Could it be that YouTube pays users 10 times more per stream than Spotify does? Could it be that video is just inherently more entertaining than audio? Could it be that the Spotify user experience is basically equivalent to using YouTube with your eyes closed? That couldn't be.
Doing this again.
Of course, we're back.
This is becoming like a tradition for us to get together and air out all the grievances that artists have.
Always happy to chat.
Yeah.
So if you haven't noticed by now, I love irony. And the most ironic part about this entire story is the name of the podcast is No Labels Necessary. But after what we learned today, if you want your songs to be up there forever, a label is necessary. If no label is backing your work, that means no cybersecurity is protecting your work. Meaning you too can be the next independent artist uploading a documentary telling the story of how you unknowingly wasted $100,000 creating an album that ultimately got deleted from Spotify because they have zero cybersecurity and you're just stuck kicking a rock down a road. So ultimately, I would argue labels are necessary because we would have never been left in this position if the album were to have been released by a label.
To get together and air out all the grievances that artists have.
Always happy to chat.
Yeah.
So Sam here is always happy to chat, and I'm always happy to chat. So I'd like to extend a formal invitation for you to come be a guest on my podcast. Because after all, I truly do want to see this system improve. I want to see it be for everybody. I love creating music and I love music creators. And with all my years of experience, I could definitely compile a good strong list of points that cover topics like royalties, AI-related stuff, cybersecurity, profile authentication, why there's no upload button, and so many more huge questions that the community has that did not get touched in Kato's podcast. And if I do make that podcast, I'll be sure to post it right up on YouTube for you to easily find without having to comment the word pod to run up my Instagram numbers or jump through any marketing hoops and loops. And somehow I just managed to stretch a 1-minute clip into a 20-minute clip. So I'll see you later.